Good afternoon, dear listeners. Welcome to Klaipėdos Nafta Investor Relations Conference. I'm Paulius from Nasdaq Vilnius, and I'll be moderating today's event. We will start with a presentation from the management, which will be followed by the Q&A session. Please be informed that this webinar is being recorded and will be available for a rewatch on Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel. As always, I encourage every one of you to share your questions in the Q&A session at the bottom of your screen, and you can submit them either anonymously or with your name. With that said, I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters, the CEO of the company, Darius Šilenskis, and the Chief Financial Officer, Mindaugas Kvekšas. Dear guests, please, the floor is yours. Good luck.
Thank you, Paulus, and good morning, everybody who has joined this early morning. So we are here to present our two quarters, first and second quarter financial result, and to present key highlights from main business streams. So I would like to start from our still fresh strategy, vision, and mission. It is, in addition to a healthy financial performance, one of the most significant achievements within the second quarter was definitely the introduction of KN brand new strategy until 2050. Therefore, I would like to use this opportunity and to highlight vision and mission to investors and those who are present today in the webinar repeatedly. Our new vision broadens the scope of our activities by defining our role in the field of new energy, including significant contribution to the region's energy transformation towards climate neutrality, with clear commitment to reshaping our operations to fully achieve our own sustainability goals. While our mission is to enable safe and reliable liquid energy, chemicals, and feedstock flows in the Baltic Sea region by offering storage and transshipment solutions enabling the region's decarbonization and of energy security. Also, we are continuing to support our customers globally with our knowledge and capabilities in LNG and other sustainable energy infrastructure projects in the nearest future. For sake of convenience, we have included two slides at the end of this presentation with our strategic goals and directions. Talking about our highlights within reported period. So here you can see from our all main streams, the highlights which I feel important to present to all of you. And I will start from regulated activity segment, where it's worth to mention that allocated capacities for 2023 is finalized, and allocation itself, and it reaches 36.7 terawatt hours, which means that we will continue regasification in our FSRU terminal in Klaipėdos at record levels and close to our technological capabilities. Another important thing in regulated LNG segment was that the regulator approved new rules of LNG terminal usage, which allows us to move on with our long-term allocation tenders till 2044. Also, it's not written here, but you can see it already in media. We have a very good news from regulator regarding our WACC, weighted average cost of capital, used to define this return from regulated business. So it has been improved from 4.16, which is applicable this year, up to 5.06% for oncoming year, for year 2024, which will bring us definitely more return and more profit from our regulated business. Talking about the business development or global business development, so we've been selected as commercial operator in another German LNG terminal. So for now, 2 out of 3 LNG terminals in Germany are commercially operated by KN. Also, KN and BP Gas and Power agreement, we have signed agreement with BP Gas and Power, which allows us to investigate joint opportunities to build LNG terminal for truck supplies in Brazil in Porto do Açu. Talking about the financial performance, during the first half of the year, group revenue was almost 18% higher, adjusted net profit 10% higher comparing to the previous year's same period, and EBITDA slightly lower or close to the same level. What is worth to underline, it is that significant performance improvement was visible in our non-regulated streams. Liquid energy business stream has generated 60% more EBITDA comparing to the previous period, to the last year's first half of the year, and which generated 2.7 euros of adjusted net profit. And also our global LNG activity, global LNG projects where we are participating, contributed to our bottom line by 0.5 million euros of net profit. And together, both segments generated absolute majority of the reported adjusted net profit, but I will leave more details to be presented by Mindaugas later today. From other highlights, so I already mentioned about the strategy, which has been successfully approved 2 months ago and communicated to investors and also to all the stakeholders. So we are now progressing internally with the implementation plan, and also we got new chair of one of our collegial bodies committees of the remuneration committee, and Živilė Valeišienė has been elected as a chair on 15th of June 2023. So talking about the business overview, summarizing the financial performance of the first half of 2023 proves that our previous decisions and continuous efforts to improve efficiency and operational excellence have paid back, contributing to profitable results and improving our free cash flow. Stable refining margins and stabilized energy price indexes have also played a role in achieving these results. However, a significant portion of this success can be attributed to additional revenue opportunities arising from continued diversification of services, especially in liquid energy terminals, as well as higher utilization of our FSRU terminal in Klaipėdos, and increased returns from our global LNG activities. And now I would like to touch upon each revenue stream and to present main highlights by segments. So let's start from our liquid energy terminals stream, which has generated the biggest part of adjusted net profit within the first half of a year. And talking about the revenue, this half of a year was 22% better in terms of revenue comparing to 2022. And there were, let's say, a few blocks of this success and a few reasons. It was increase of light oil products and biofuels handling. So, and was primarily influenced by increasing tank rent demand for liquid fuels handling, where gasoline, diesel, especially dedicated Ukraine diesel and biofuels were the main drivers and took about 67% of the growth. Stability of cargo flows, so relatively stable European liquid fuels producers margins, I already mentioned shortly on that, and refinery utilization rates respectively allowed to maintain steady cargo flows in the first half of the year 2023. Expanding of transshipment services geography, which is vertical expansion. Transshipment services at Marijampolė liquid fuels terminal operated by KN started in end of May 2023, and the transshipment agreement with Orlen Lietuva concluded, one more transshipment agreement. So regular discharge of diesel cargo from rail tank cars and loaded tank trucks operations are performed from beginning of the summer with number of service trucks steady increasing each month. Also, we were servicing Lithuania full consumers' needs and slightly year-over-year increasing consumption of gasoline and road transport diesel in Lithuania, as it proven by official statistic sources. So this ensured stable transshipment volumes in Klaipėdos liquid energy terminal tanker truck station, which increased by 6%. And intensified bitumen transshipment, about 7% of revenue was generated by bitumen transshipment within the first months of 2023. And we handled about 52,000 tons of bitumen, or 57% more comparing to the first half of 2022. Okay, so let's talk about regulated LNG activities. I already mentioned the main highlights in a summary slide, but nevertheless, it's worth to go through the numbers. So first half of a year, Klaipėdos LNG terminal regasification and reloading quantities were even 32% higher comparing to the same period last year. 19 carriers have arrived at LNG terminal only during Q2 of 2023, and they have been regasified and reloaded, which is nearly equal to the same period a year ago. So talking about our capacity utilization, we were slightly higher in terms of utilization comparing to Europe's average rate, while Europe's average was 64%, ours during reported period was 74%. Talking about the pricing, yes, we see a significant drop, I would say even drop of TTF indexes. Respectively, natural gas is getting more competitiveness for those who have alternative to switch to another sources of energy in the operations and activities, and definitely driving some additional demand. We managed to provide 87% of entire LNG, which was transported into Lithuanian grid, excluding transit to Kaliningrad state. So this is an absolute majority of the supply has been performed using our infrastructure. Upcoming long-term capacity allocation procedure. So on June 26, we announced public consultation regarding amendments to regulations. And on 27 of July, we received National Energy Regulators approval on updated regulations. So long-term capacity allocation process we are planning to start later on September. Shortly on our global LNG or commercial LNG performance. So almost 35% of increase in revenues comparing to the same period last year. And as already mentioned, we are successfully adding to our portfolio projects, global projects, where we are getting some role. So I have mentioned we became a commercial operator of another LNG terminal in Germany, and as already said, we are going to check together with BP opportunities to build together LNG terminal in Porto do Açu, Brazil, where we are already having activities and successfully operating LNG infrastructure for the last 2 years. On this note, I would like to pass the stage for Mindaugas and to present our financial results. Thank you.
Thank you, Darius. So during the 6 months ended on the 30th of June, 2023, the group have continued to maintain improvement in overall financial performance, and the liquid energy products, terminals, and commercial LNG business segments being the key drivers for success. Revenue for the first half of the year was up by 6.4 million euros compared to the same period in 2022. And of that, 3 million euros were earned as regulated revenue in regional LNG business segment. Key factor for jump in revenue was a significant increase in demand for regasification services in the Klaipėdos LNG terminal, and the change in regulation which happened in the second quarter of last year and which affected an increase in regasification tariff by nearly 3 times. So subsequently, because of these two conditions, regulated revenue increased by 1.5 million euros. And also during the first half of 2023, the company received approximately 900,000 euros as income from the clients for the unused allocated capacities. Meanwhile, the liquid energy terminal segment continues its solid recovery as the revenue was boosted by 2.6 million euros relative to prior year first half. And revenue growth is primarily influenced by increasing liquid energy product tank rent for handling gasoline, diesel, especially dedicated to Ukraine, and liquid biofuels. In relative terms, the strongest growth in revenue was by 35% and was demonstrated in our commercial LNG segment, as commented by Darius. In addition to Brazil's ASU LNG terminal operation income, provision of commercial operation services to LNG terminals projects in Germany and Italy has not just further proven KN's expertise in this segment, but also strongly added to the revenue growth by approximately 800,000 euros. So despite revenue growth, temporary regulatory differences in revenue of regional LNG segment led to a decrease of EBITDA by roughly 0.2 million euros. And specifically, regional LNG segment EBITDA was lower by 2.6 million euros, mostly due to higher expenses. The regulated segment costs increased by 5.4 million euros, of which 2.4 million euros is an increase in the cost of emission allowances, affected by larger regasification volumes and higher emissions, but more importantly affected by the high prices, of course, of emission allowances. And also one-off expenses of 1.5 million euros related to contractual obligations were accrued in 2023. Other FSRU operational expenses were higher by 1.5 million euros due to inflation, a higher maintenance, and various minor projects. So it is important to note that had the EBITDA been adjusted for the estimated temporary regulatory differences, it would have amounted to 11.8 million euros for the 6 months ended on 30th of June 2023, whereas it amounted to 12 million euros for the same period last year. And these temporary regulatory differences, due to the net excess costs which are not compensated by current year's revenue, are expected to be settled through higher regulated income in the following years as the regulation mechanism works. So contrary to regional LNG's performance on a non-adjusted basis, liquid energy terminals went up by 2.1 million euros in EBITDA, demonstrating a more than 60% increase, achieved mostly by diversified growth in revenue and implemented cost efficiency measures, as well as helped by stabilized energy prices. Commercial LNG segment EBITDA has also improved by 0.3 million euros due to the mentioned successful international LNG terminal projects. Finally, arriving at the net profit loss performance, so the appreciation of euro against the United States dollar in this year had a major effect on the non-adjusted net profit during the first half of 2023. As recognized under requirements of International Financial Reporting Standards. A total unrealized foreign exchange profit of 4.8 million euros less deferred taxes was recognized this year, and this compares to the loss of almost 17 million euros during the same period in 2022. After we eliminate unrealized currency exchange income of the regulated regional LNG segment, its adjusted net profit amounts to 0.1 million euros for the first half of 2023, while the adjusted net profit of 2.5 million euros was earned last year. Again, we estimate that had the net profit been adjusted for the just mentioned temporary regulatory differences, it would have amounted to 1.7 million euros, which compares to 2.1 million euros in 2022. And finally, the net profit of the liquid energy products terminal segment increased by 2.1 million euros compared to the same period last year, due to the factors already mentioned. Now moving to the slide on free cash flow performance, notably decrease in the working capital, particularly the accounts payables last year, and a less significant decrease this year resulted in a negative change of the free cash flow by 2.9 million euros due to this reason. On the other hand, due to lower investment needs, the free cash flow has improved by 1.7 million euros. And with other less significant factors accounted for, overall, the free cash flow has remained relatively stable at approximately 80 million euros. Then on the next slide, going to our capital structure and the net debt or leverage metrics. So no significant changes in the capital structure, except for additional partial loan drawdown to finance reduction of the security supplement in the regulated segment. And while 24.2 million euros of lease liabilities were settled during the first half of 2023, due to appreciation of euro, the remaining balance decreased by more than 28 million euros, that is mostly denominated in the United States dollars. And finally, the last bit of the financial overview, the profitability metrics, unsurprisingly, temporary regulatory differences stemming from higher costs of regulated regional LNG segment negatively affected profitability KPIs. And net profit and EBITDA margins are slightly lower compared to the previous period due to this reason. Otherwise, if these factors were not taken, if the temporary regulatory differences were adjusted, the group's net profit margin has strongly improved this year. And finally, return on equity and return on assets, as well as price earnings ratios for the first half of 2022, were affected by the significant impairment losses recognized in third quarter of 2021, as the calculation took into consideration the net profit loss for the last 12 months. Finally, and before we move to the Q&A part of today's webinar, I would like to take this opportunity to inform dear participants that this is my last webinar representing a brilliant KN's team, and starting from September, I will begin writing a new chapter in my career. And meanwhile, contact details for your inquiries will be accordingly updated on KN's website as well as NASDAQ. Thank you. So now, Paulius, shall we proceed with the questions received?
Yes, thank you, dear panelists, for the comprehensive presentation. Now we will proceed with the questions. Before that, I would like to remind you that you can submit them down below in the Q&A section section of the Zoom webinar. Yes, and we do have one question, which is, when is it expected to make a decision on the expansion of the gasification capacity of the LNG storage vessel Independence? What is the current stage of the deliberations, and which development option, up to 5 billion or up to 6.25 billion cubic meters, is the company going to choose? And according to market consultations, how much the capacity expansion could cost?
Thank you for the question. I will get that on my side and will try to answer. So first of all, it's important to say that our priority is to finalize allocation of existing capacities till 2044, which we will perform during September. And after that, final decision will be made on how and in which scale and scope we are proceeding with potential capacity expansion. What it is clear that we are considering only, let's say, expansion only up to 5 BCMs. And there are many reasons, including technological ones, on this decision. And unfortunately, I'm not able to comment and to provide investment costs of potential expansion, because they are not yet mature enough and no decisions are taken on this investment. So unfortunately, I cannot comment on a potential value. Presently, we are meeting all potential market participants and main market players regionally let's say, in order to clarify potential needs from their side, both on existing capacities and on potential capacities, how we can expand them on FSRU independence. So if we will go with the capacity expansion, decisions are forecasted to be made during Q4 of 2023.
Thank you, Darius, for your answer. While we're still waiting for more questions to come in, I'd like to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded, and shortly after it will end, it will be uploaded to NASDAQ Baltic YouTube channel. You can also view the financial report on the NASDAQ Baltic website on the company's profile. And yeah, please do not hesitate to ask further questions. Take the opportunity to speak with the company's management. Okay, so if there are no further questions, I would like to say that, well, if you will have some in the future, I'm sure that the company will be happy to answer them after the webinar. And as all questions are answered, on behalf of Klaipėdos Nafta and NASDAQ Vilnius, I would like to thank everyone for being here. It was a pleasure to be here with you today, and gentlemen, thank you for the comprehensive and informative presentation. Have a great day, and goodbye.
Thank you, Paulus, and all participants. Likewise, have a great day.